Hi there. Here we go with chapter 7. And the Roman Empire is really a big one, just like ancient Greece was. So bear with me. I'm just going to try and stick to the highlights as usual. So here we go, Roman Empire. All right, again, as usual, learning objectives. If you see something here that you want to screen cap, and maybe use for upcoming midterm or final, by all means do so. Here's our map. Fascinating how small the Roman Empire was, but how hugely influential. Okay, and here's our timeline. Again, you can screen cap. Okay, here we have the column of Trajan. The Emperor Trajan commissioned a narrative relief column. In the narrative scenes on the column of Trajan, battle scenes take up a quarter of the whole. So, he was big on the battles. Okay, and then here we have a model of the city, which is kind of fascinating. If you zoom in on it, I'll move out of the way, and you can see all of the components of Rome. And this is the Temple of Portunus. This is described as a pseudo-peripteral in architectural terms. Architecturally, this means that some of the columns on this building are freestanding, and some of them are engaged or only, visual. They're, quote-unquote false columns. In contrast to Greek temples, the usual architectural schema of Roman temples was pseudo-peripteral. So that's a good vocabulary word we need to know. And Temple of Vesta. The circular plan of the Temple of Vesta is definitely not an Etruscan contribution, though its use of columns, a high podium, and axial alignment are in the Etruscan style. Okay, this is a huge advance here. The Sanctuary of Fortuna Primigenia in Palestrina is a Roman temple that was built during the Republican period, and it reflected the colossal design of the Greek Hellenistic style. The structural material that made it possible for the architect of the Sanctuary of Fortuna Primigenia to create such a colossal structure was concrete. So the Romans developed concrete. The creation of concrete revolutionized architecture. Concrete allowed the Romans to build massive structures that shaped the enclosed space. We're going to see a lot of that in upcoming slides. The Sanctuary of Fortuna Primigenia relied on a monumental concrete barrel vaults as a structural component. This is just a restored view, so we have to imagine. And then here we have some of the different Roman concrete vaults that become really important in a lot of our architecture coming up. Okay, here's a man with portrait busts. I guess we don't know who he is, but the cool thing about it is he has busts of his ancestors. So, wow. Okay, so that becomes important, your ancestors. This head of a Republican priest is a Republican-style portrait. Notice the verism. Verism is one of our vocab words. It describes a realistic rather than idealized, such as heroic or legendary style. The focus here is on accuracy. So, this influence that created a lifelike verism in Roman Republic portraits was Roman household imagines. And this refers to someone from the past, the imagines, and they would try to replicate or, revere someone from the past in their family. We see a lot of marble portraits during the Republican period, like this one. Now, Julius Caesar, was the first to break tradition and use his portrait on Roman coins. It's interesting to be the first, right? Okay, funerary relief. Notice that this is made of limestone. It's cheaper material. And then this one is of marble, so very expensive. Although these men are not necessarily former slaves, I want you to know that many freed slaves ordered portrait reliefs for their tombs to commemorate their status as Roman citizens. That's awesome. Okay, and this is an aerial view of the Forum at Pompeii. So we can see all of the components of Pompeii. Pretty cool. Pompeii's so famous. This is an amphitheater. It's not a coliseum, it's an amphitheater from Pompeii, and fabulously still exists from 70 BCE, before our Common Era. Crazy. Okay, and this is the same amphitheater, but this is a painting of it, and they're showing a brawl. Oh, pretty cool. There's a fight going on. So we see the amphitheater in use. Note that we never see agricultural scenes in Roman wall paintings. Like, in the Neolithic period, it was so important, agricultural scenes, but we're not seeing that anymore. This is a restored view and a plan for a typical Roman house. The style was called a domus, almost like domicile. And this was the type of a home that the vast majority of citizens of Rome lived in. I don't mind it. I love this. In the Roman house plan, the atrium is the focus. So, got like this huge skylight called an atrium. This is the peristyle, which is another focus of the Roman house plan. So, kind of like an open air garden court. And this is the first style wall painting in Pompeii. They would try to imitate costly marble panels. So, it's almost like they're trying to look like they're wealthy and can afford that kind of thing. But what's weird is everybody had these murals in their home in Pompeii. How fabulous. This is a huge one. Okay, this is from the second style. So notice the styles. That's important. This is from Pompeii. Now, these second style wall panels are characterized as walls dissolving into an illusionistic landscape. So we don't see that as much here as we will in the upcoming slides, but this being the Villa of Mysteries, the figures here are thought to be taking part in an initiation into the cult of Dionysus. You have to look him up. Dionysus is the god of wine, of ritual madness, theater, religious ecstasy. He was like kind of a crazy cat. Here we have more second style wall paintings. Notice that we're trying to see the dissolution of these landscapes. We're kind of like, it's almost like Trompe l'oeil, you know what I mean? Where it looks like you can actually walk into it. So that was the big thing in the second style. And again, gardenscape. Also second style. The context of this garden fresco is the Villa of Livia. So Livia, we're going to see in the future. She's like, I don't know, like kind of like a living goddess. Okay, third style, go back. Third style, it's just basically carving lines into a dark background. So very different style, the third style. And then the fourth style, I did it again. Here in the Ixion room, it's what we see now is a mixture of previous styles. So we see all these panels, and some are trying to imitate expensive panels. Some are, illusionistic, and, it's all combined in the fourth style. So it's almost like fashion, What was the style of the moment? Did you have the style of the moment? I guess if you were wealthy, you did, or if you were concerned about fashion. Okay, Neptune and Amphitrite. Very interesting. Mosaic. This is a wedding portrait. Often women are shown in portraits like these holding a stylus and a wax tablet, and this is symbolic of their education. Even if they had none, even if they are uneducated, even illiterate, it was still symbolic of that. Again, woman with stylus, so it was really like a thing, for a husband to have a wife who was educated was, highly revered. Okay, this is the Greek poet Menander. So that's a notable artwork for sure. And then Still Life with Peaches. First off, I always think that, are these peaches raw or like not even raw? I mean like unripe. Why are they green? I guess, I don't know, maybe they did something to the raw peaches, like, I don't know, or unripe peaches. But the thing that you want to notice about this artwork is the attention to light and shadow and dimension. So that's a pretty cool advance. Okay, Augustus, this is huge. He was an important Roman figure, hugely important. I always remember this one. He had a program to make the monuments of Rome equal to those of Periclean Athens. So way back in the Greek time, to them, General Pericles of Athens was known for being very heroic. So Augustus had an altar, a forum, and a temple. He did not have a palace. Palace was not a big deal in Rome. Roads, as in all roads lead to Rome, you've heard that expression. Aqueducts, bridges, they were all Roman advances, and they were very important in this period. The purpose of the imperial portrait statue, such as this one, was to mold public opinion. Of course, he's amazing. We love him. Okay, here's Livia. Remember I talked about her before in that garden fresco. Okay, this is another huge one, the Ara Pacis Augustae, so the altar of the Augustan peace. This highlights Augustus's ancestral connection to Aeneas. So that's like, his ancestry, right? The Panathenaic frieze from the Parthenon was the model for the procession of the imperial family on the Ara Pacis Augustae. So think about the Parthenon. And, so that was a model for this procession going on down here. And we're going to look at some close-ups. Okay, female personification. So we've got these three ladies. And they're supposed to be like combined into one amazing woman, I believe. Here's the procession. So remember that was based on the Parthenaec frieze. And the Maison Carrée, it was created by the architects, Pax Augusta. So that's the name of their business. They also created the Ara Pacis Augustae, which we just looked at, and the Pont du Gard. That's on the next slide. So these guys were really doing well. Created really famous monuments. Oops. Okay. Pont du Gard. This was also created by Pax Augustus. Pax Augusta. And this is Porta Maggiore in Rome. For style, remember that's just like a combination of all of those styles. Okay, the Roman Emperor Nero. So this is his house. Domus Aurea of Nero. Had the architects Severus and Celer build a palace after the Great Fire of 64 CE. Okay, Colosseum. Everybody knows about the Colosseum. It's Flavian. Did you know that? It's a Flavian amphitheater. So if a question asks you, is this a Colosseum or an amphitheater? Probably an amphitheater. Because Colosseum is like, the name of an amphitheater. Okay, so this is the north facade. The exterior of the Colosseum combined the Greek post and lintel structure in its columns and the entablature of the Roman arch. Entablature. 4-syllable word, it's a big one. Okay, Vespasian. And this is a Flavian woman. The coolest thing about this is that this hairstyle, they had to keep up with the hairstyles. Whatever was trendy, it's just the same as today. Probably worse, but, probably more strict. But this is a departure from Republican-style portraits. Flavian portraits emphasize beauty shown through current fashion trends. So the technique they had to use to create this hairstyle into the marble, they had to drill into the marble. So wow, it was really important. Okay, this is the Arch of Titus. The artist here, the artist of the spoils is his name. I guess he just, that's how he was known. From Jerusalem, he created the illusion of depth in this artwork by carving different heights of relief. So, that was his deal, his claim to fame. And here we have an apotheosis. An apotheosis is a highest point or a climax. So the allegorical figures in this triumph of Titus were meant to invoke the imperial virtues. So it's kind of like a story that has symbolic meaning. An allegory, this is allegorical, is a story or poem or a picture that can be interpreted to reveal a hidden meaning. So think of the moral of a story, and people would gaze upon it and, get it. Here's that same artist, Spoils of Jerusalem. He was busy. And here we have Triumph of Titus. So notice, wow, how much this relief comes forward into space. It's almost sculptural, like really 3D. Okay, this is Tim Gad in Algeria. What's amazing is they can still do, fly overhead and see the remains of this city. Wow. Okay, this is a funerary relief. Circus Maximus in Rome. And this is the Forum of Trajan. He's going to be really important coming up. So this is a restored view, that's magnifique. And here we have the Arch of Trajan. Okay, so this is the same Emperor Trajan who commissioned the narrative relief column in the first slide. So this is really only a couple years later. Same guy. Here's a detail. And remember how I said a quarter of it was battle scenes? So here's a great detail shot of those battle scenes. Trajan was really all about his victories over the Dacians. That was his claim to fame, and he just loved showing off. So here we've got wounded Romans. Oh my gosh, Trajan is so amazing, he says. And then this shows, the buildings he created. Okay, markets of Trajan. Okay, quite a lot going on. This is an interior. Notice the vaults. Okay, this is showing a bear hunt. So we know how kings did that kind of stuff, right? And emperors. Okay, here we have Hadrian, very important figure. The unusual thing about this portrait is that he has a beard. So beards came into style. And the Emperor Hadrian was responsible for the construction of the Pantheon in Rome. That is a huge thing. Okay, here's the Pantheon. Wow. Pantheon was one of the most influential designs in the history of architecture. It brought new meaning to the concept of architectural space. Incredible place. Still there. Okay, the design of the Pantheon is best described as the intersection of two circles. So we have a round interior and a round dome on top. So we've got intersecting circles. Here's the interior, and notice the oculus. It's completely open, so if it rains, it's raining inside. And there's drains on the floor. It's so impressive. The primary function of an architectural coffering, which is these, they're like sunken panels. So that was done so they could lighten the weight of the dome or the arch. So by taking this material away, then, the whole thing is lighter. And, yeah. Okay, here's the Emperor Hadrian, his palace at Tivoli. Pretty fancy. And this is the treasury at Petra. Okay, so now we're in Jordan. And I see pictures of this all the time on National Geographic. I follow them on Instagram. People just love this. What's weird about it, or cool about it, I guess, is that it was purely ornamental. This is carved in the side of a mountain. It's, wow. Okay, Neptune and creatures of the sea on the floor mosaic in the baths. So you can imagine Romans bathing here. And this is a model of an insula. Talk about that a little bit more in a bit. Okay, ceilings and mural paintings. Painted vaults. So again, we have these vaults. Funerary relief. Apotheosis. Okay, the standard imperial scene that appears on the base of the column of Antoninus Pius is an apotheosis. And again, we've got such heavy relief here. So sculptural. Okay, I always remember this guy. I just love his color. I guess it was copper? No, bronze. So it has the heavy verdigris of age. This is an equestrian portrait of Marcus Aurelius. And this is Commodus in the guise of Hercules. So this we would say is more of a heroic portrait, right? Okay, another sarcophagus. The increasing popularity of Christianity accounts for the increasing presence of sarcophagi in Roman art after the time of Augustus. We'll hear more about that too. So Asiatic or sarcophagus. Beautiful. And a mummy case. How cool! So guess where it's from? Egypt. But the big difference now from Egyptian artwork we've seen in the past is now it's encaustic on wood. So the use of encaustic painting, which was mixing pigments with hot wax to paint on wood or canvas, it fell into obscurity after the fall of the Roman Empire, but they loved it. The majority of Roman panel portraits in the encaustic technique come from Egypt. All right. Here's another mummy portrait. How pretty to have on your mummy case. And I can see why it was popular. Okay, here's a painted portrait, but this is tempera on wood. Caracalla. And a chariot procession. So chariots are still popular. And this is for the baths. I can imagine those tiled floors. Okay, so the primary structure for this, the Baths of Diocletian, is a groin vault. So you might want to look back to the types of vaults on the slide or figure 7.6 so you can see how this has, to me it kind of reminds me of, like plumbing joints. When a joint has a pipe coming in different directions, so it's almost shaped like a cross. So there were two going this direction and then two going this direction, so it's kind of like a cross shape. Okay, there's Trajan. Wanted to know what he looked like, right? And Philip the Arabian, minor character. Okay, heroic portrait. This really does remind me of Greece. And the Battle of the Romans. The sarcophagus. How fascinating. Another sarcophagus. Ruins of the Temple of Venus. And Tetrarchs in Constantinople. Okay, this is the Palace of Diocletian in Split. Split was the name of the city. Now it's called Croatia. But Emperor Diocletian built a large palace. It could also be known as a fort at Split. So this is not one of those Roman creations, a palace. So he just decided to look to the past, really. And the basilica, so here's an example of a basilica. This is where the Roman law court for a Roman city would have been housed, in a basilica. Okay, this is an interior at the left, Alla Palatina, and the exterior, just amazing. They really built things to last, Arch of Constantine. This is a triumphal arch of Constantine. So this is a picture that you want to remember. Constantine distributing largesse. This is on that same Arch of Constantine. Okay, this portrait has always been so weird to me. I wonder, and I'm sure that this is probably the case, but his eyes, doesn't that remind you of the wakefulness? The large eyes in the Neolithic period with those statues looking for, it was just kind of like a religious thing, which makes sense because it was Constantine, Emperor Constantine, who chose to recognize Christianity as the official religion of Rome in the 4th century of our common era. So this is like in the 300s. So he's a huge character. Okay, and then 2 coins of him looking a little more normal. And here we've got some discussion questions. Okay, so we don't really have additional notes this week, but if you want to screen cap the discussion questions, you might find a really good topic for your paper.